Hello, YouTube world. Good afternoon, good evening, good night, good morning. It's Westy here, back at it again with another video. I want to touch on a quick topic here. Um, I might move this momentarily if the audio quality doesn't favor me here. But the topic, you can tell by the title, I have a real gripe with antinatalists and antinatalist ideology or philosophy, if you can even give them enough credit to say that they have a actual coalition of thought. I wouldn't even give it much credence. I wouldn't even say that they have that much. So let's get into it. One side note, I'm going to be releasing a video after 100 subs, just as a little special treat. The process involving that takes a little bit of finesse and technological prowess. I'd say I don't have yet, but I'm gonna give it the old college try to put that video together. After this one. This one was just kind of spur of the moment after some interactions with people and after many careful thought and consideration. So if the audio quality sucks, forgive me. I'm recording from an old phone, so it's not going to be as great as I'd like it, especially with traffic behind me here. But I'm out here at the river. Pretty beautiful view out for right now. It could be better, but it is what it is. So, what are the core beliefs of antinatalism? You're hard pressed to find somebody to give you a good rundown of that. They're typically, to my best recollection, they're typically anti-birthing people, anti-bringing new life into this world that happens to be human. And they'll give you these platitudes and these mental gymnastics about how anybody bringing a child into this world is doing it for their own selfish means, and it's very selfish to have children, knowing the state of the world and its current circumstances. Probably bullshit that came out from the Frankfurt School of Thought many years ago. I can't really cite that as the source. I can say that there were a lot of out there philosophers back in probably back as far as the Roman Empire was still a thing. I'm not up to date on my historical prowess as many of my friends online, but I can tell you that I don't know any reputable antinatalists that have contributed to the human body of knowledge or spirit or thought. And I know as soon as you say these types of words, these are trigger words for these types of people, because they automatically assume, okay, you're using spiritual terms, you're using like possible abstractions, which they're really not. A lot of this stuff is grounded in reality and your day-to-day living, and they'll completely give a reductionist argument on how using that kind of language you're already following a prerequisite of human tradition and thought that has brainwashed the masses for years and years and years. Reductionist bullshit. Because I'll say it right now, back to the point where there hasn't been any reputable. They'll probably quote someone like Schopenhauer or somebody among those lines. People who don't really have skin in physical labor or like raising families, because there's this argument with the R-type and K-type strategists, R versus K-type strategists. People who tend to have higher IQ don't reproduce, and the people who are on the lower end of the spectrum, not to say that they're completely knuckle-dragging peons, tend to have a lot more kids. But I think a lot can be said towards this is a very reductionist school of thinking and ideology, and it serves nobody, not even the people who preach it. And I think that just goes without saying. It's not, and it's also, this is the most important point, it is not grounded in rationality. It is grounded in trauma. There's people who preach this kind of bullshit are traumatized individuals that do not hold themselves accountable. So when we go into this type of talk, they're typically they're using mental gymnastics to, serve to paint things in their lens and completely run in circles around the topic at hand and the subject and whatever it may be. It could be a number of runoff arguments. I think antinatalism is downstream from a lot of nihilistic patterns in shaping education and prominent thought leaders. I wouldn't say it goes hand in hand with inceldom. I think most most people who are a part of the incel identity or the black pilled community, they typically they're they have some kind of, whether they care to admit it or not, some glimmer of hope of reproducing. But anyway, that's I don't really want to get too much into that shit. I want to say that they can't cite one antinatalist that has done any good for anybody besides themselves. So when they tell you that you're selfish for bringing life into this world, it's just something to be aware of. That it's coming from a place of trauma and not rationality. Because whatever happened in their life that skewed their vision so much, it there's this type of satanic conditioning people can do. I don't want to get too far into that, but you can just completely change the framework of somebody's psychology and have them completely demoralized. And I know that a lot of things in my past video I mentioned the modern world can contribute to a lot of those factors, but I think with antinatalism it just takes an absurdist step in that direction, and it just serves absolutely nobody. All right, I'm reiterating a point here. I have actual data to back this up, but Stanford prison experiment, whenever you have the misfortune to talk to or engage with an antinatalist about a number of things, they are, like I said, playing these mental gymnastic games, and they won't even entertain hypotheticals, right? So I was talking to this kid, and he was live streaming on this platform here on YouTube. I think his name was literally Mr. Antinatalist, right? And I was just in his comment section, was like fooling around. Now, mind you, I don't really, if I can help it, I don't like to entertain a lot of that, a lot of these types of time-wasting things. This time better spent working, trying to earn your own in this world, to give you the motivation to perhaps give back to others. Antinatalists, and specifically this kid, he talked about, I gave him a hypothetical real quick after I just heard so much crap that I just had to speak up. And I said, if you had the chance to, I think there's some kind of crash going on. What is going on here? Very strange. Of all moments right now. Give me 1 second. I want to see if I can film something. All right, I'm back. Whatever commotion was going on there, it was stopped by the time I ran down from where I was. I was at this little, it was basically you could oversee this parking area here, and it was a nice little circle of rocks you can sit on and relax at. It's a pretty nice place. And whatever commotion, it wasn't there. So back to the point where I was giving this kid this hypothetical. If there was a abandoned child or orphan, nobody else was around. You don't have any access to the parents. You don't have any, what have you. you don't have any contact with an orphanage or some place to put them, would you nurture that child? Even with your antinatalist thinking and rationale or lack thereof, would you go out of your way to nurture the child? If they say no, that pretty much reveals their hand. If they say yes, that's a good starting point, right? That's a good starting point to break down some of those types of barriers that they think other people should share. And mind you, I wanted to preface this whole video in the beginning that you can believe whatever you want. You can think whatever you want. I take an issue when you start preaching it as word and you start getting other people into your cult-like thinking, and you get other people on board with something that's going to eradicate human existence. It's kind of like some supervillain type of shit or murderer type thinking. They'll give you this type of landscape portrait of their character and the character of fellow antinatalists that, oh, those aren't our intentions. And it's like, well, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? Your quote unquote good intentions are to, if you had your way, you would probably enforce some kind of eugenic program, stop people from reproducing, because a lot of this ideology is grounded in, it's downstream from a lot of climate activists getting a hold of the microphone, you know what I mean? Because of human pollution, carbon emissions, this type and that type, which I could go on and on and on about the white pills to that argument instead of the black pills about, yes, we're probably going to have to deal with hotter summers from now until eternity, or the Earth's rotation might slow by 0.00000000001%, right? Because of all this, the melted ice caps is going to slow the tectonic plates somehow. And, first off, all that crap came about in a time of fear-mongering, and I don't think it's really changed all that much. I think it's been, you can make a case, yeah, there's a lot of environmental disasters humans had a giant hand in, but what about the microbes and algae and funguses that can break down plastic? What about the things we've done to bring back extinct species? What about the things we've done to preserve life that would have been extinct had it not been for human intervention, eliminating another species that could completely wipe out another one? You can have a coherent ecosystem and something to completely work in tandem with humanity. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. It doesn't have to be this crap about if humans weren't around, everything would be glorious and everything would be fine. I'm of the camp that I think it would disrupt the ecosystem worse than what it is. Entropy. There's room for growth after things break down. Humans are part of the Earth's ecosystem, whether you care to admit it or not. But I want to keep a lot of the climate stuff out of the talk for right now until I can get a better synopsis on that. And but back to the Stanford prison experiment, right? I'll give a quick rundown of that because I mentioned it, like a flyby mention of it, but I didn't really give context to why I created this hypothetical, right? Because in that experiment, you'll come to find these prisoners got angry because they were on the low IQ end of the spectrum. They could not tell the interviewer, whoever was asking them, how they felt after, if they didn't eat breakfast the prior morning or the morning, that they woke up. they'd get angry and they say, "Hey, what are you saying, mister? I already ate my breakfast. What are you talking about, mister?" And there goes the policeman. "What are you talking about, copper? I already ate my breakfast this morning. What do you mean? Are you trying to pull a fast one on me? I already ate my fucking breakfast this morning." They couldn't actually answer it properly and say, "Well, I would have felt this way. I would have felt despondent or pretty upset if I didn't eat breakfast more. I would have felt hungry if I didn't eat breakfast." No, then none of them answered that way. Unless you can see the experiment for yourself. It's pretty humorous, albeit, a bit sad about the, Western education system, more so America's, not, overseas. But back to the hypothetical. I'm using this as like an analogy. It's, kind of just comparing how this hypothetical works. If an antinatalist had an opportunity to care for something, would they or wouldn't they? I think whatever the answer they give you, it'll reveal a lot about the core beliefs of their thinking and the shoddy rationale behind being an antinatalist. I think it just goes hand in hand. And, it's not some kind of Hail Mary, how about this? X equals, No, it's not about that. If they can't even entertain it, if they give you bullshit like, well, that's just not a reasonable or a realistic scenario. Why would I? That's just a complete misdirection of their answer. It's not an answer if you ask me, and I think it just reveals their hand and their trauma more so than anything. Cognitive dissonance. I could have started it with that. I could have just named the title of this video, "Antinatalist equals cognitive dissonance." More of these linguistic tricks that came about in the past 20, 30 years, probably even more recent. There's cognitive dissonance in their thinking. They circular reasoning, circular logic, right? You give them this scenario, or you try to combat some of their completely wild takes, and they'll just spin it into where you're the issue, not them. They can't, they're absolved of all sin because they're not going to have children, right? And which is, if you choose to go that route, there's a noble route to be had there. But like I said, as soon as you start whispering in other people's ear and get them on board with bullshit, specifically white people, because they're more susceptible to these kinds of lies, I think that's a pretty evil thing to do, especially if they were considering having children. That's more of the camp I'm really talking about here. Let me see. Nurturing is human nature during those core moments, those crucial moments within an infant's lifespan and their development. You need a nurturing parent, or blood related or not, even though you can probably quote this scientific paper about how, skin on skin contact between a child and the parent will create a closer bond when they develop and grow up older. I think that just hammers most of my points home here. Nurture is within the human spirit to do. If you don't have that, and you want to be a reductionist antinatalist and, live without that type of compassion and willpower to strive and make something better for them, not just yourself. This is where they start to really piss me off. Oh, that's for your own selfish reasons to make you feel good. No, it's for the thing you're bringing into the world, to experience the world with all its suffering, with all its strife, with all its happiness and joy. There's moments of light to be found within the darkness, and I don't believe depriving somebody of that is the way to go. You don't know what you're missing, There's a lot of things you can say. Well, you don't know what you're missing until you try it. I think this is like the core thing humans were not only biologically designed to do. It's it's a beautiful thing within nature. And antinatalists is it's such warped visions. They just I think it's I have such a gripe with it because I came from similar thinking, and I think you can evolve past that if you're willing, and it'll serve you better than anybody else. Do it for yourself. Get out of this cult thinking of doomsaying because you heard somebody you consider might relate to your traumatic past or traumatic thinking. So then you buy into their what they preach and try to pawn it off to other people, get people on board with it. It's just complete redundancy. It's just yeah. So yeah. I think I kept it within the confines of some truth here. I'm pretty confident in my beliefs against antinatalists. If anyone, I won't put a big target on my forehead here, but if you can really provide some kind of substantial evidence that human life equates to suffering and we're here to do nothing but suck up resources and we're a parasitic organism, provide your reasoning and I'll happily destroy it. Because it's grounded in trauma, not rationality. And you can do these mental gymnastics and say, well, these are concepts that were created by man, so they don't really hold up in the argument. I'd be willing to take it a mile further and disprove all of that crap in an instant. So yeah, if there's anyone who agrees with me, let me know your thoughts. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And that video will be coming soon. It's kind of like a mini documentary. I'm still in the progress of the script, but yeah, hope you enjoyed. I think a lot more can be said here. A lot more can be said with anything. This is just wanted to get that off my chest. So guys, have a good day. I've been Westy. Peace out. One more note on this. I had a lot more I wanted to say. Antinatalists, they throw the baby out with the bathwater, quite literally, and they'll point at the problem but shun any real solution. Why is that? Why do a group of people they can point out a problem, they can't give any solutions? Their absolute solution is to eradicate humanity. So, well, what does that say about them? It says they're a pretty ridiculous group of people, if you ask me. And you can't make any headway with their arguments unless you break off some of those barriers and get a vision of their character, and try to fish into what traumatized them so much and to believe this absolute garbage. Only then will you start to take this type of stuff. Hopefully you don't take it seriously at all, Hopefully you can work within the confines of human consciousness and not be an antinatalist who tiptoes around morality and, gives these types of platitudes about how they're great people for not reproducing. Just spiteful mutants. If dysgenics, which are a real thing, if we can somehow establish that there is dysgenic thinking, I think we can go a long way with identifying these types of logical traps and fallacies people tend to fall into. And this particular group of people, they're all for quoting logical fallacies and telling people, oh, well, you're being guilty of this one. You're being guilty of maximum theory of the working man and the fucking. It's like, shut the fuck up. Shut up. You don't have any real arguments. They fall apart. I won't get too arrogant, but yeah, I think that really covers it here. I've been Westy. Leave like, comment, subscribe, do all that great stuff. Good quality vid coming soon. Stay tuned. Or not.